Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So, as I said in the last video, I thought I'd continue talking about the rock and roll marathon series races that I've done these last couple of years. So, the last video I talked about my first race, which was in Philadelphia, September 2018. This video I'm going to talk about my second race, which was in Arizona in January of 2019. Now, as of recording this, as far as I know, the Arizona races are still on. They are, I believe, when I ran it, it was around Martin Luther King weekend. So, I believe it's still that same weekend. And it was, you had three choices. You could do 5K. You know, everyone could do the 5K on Saturday. I think they might have also had the option of doing a 10K on Saturday. I can't really remember. But I know they had a 10K option, half marathon, and then the full marathon. I did the half marathon. That weekend was a very interesting weekend for a number of reasons. That happened to be the weekend that a really bad storm hit the Midwest and the Northeast. My family was flying out. We flew out from Syracuse to Chicago, and we got to Chicago just in the nick of time because the storm was about to hit Chicago. Got out of Chicago just before the storm hit, and when we landed in Phoenix, we got a text message from a friend of my mom's that said that thousands of flights were grounded because the storm hit. So she was wondering if we got out of there, and we were like, yeah, luckily we got out of there. We didn't land until like 1 or 2 in the morning, but we got there okay. We stayed at the Graduate, which is right near the ASU campus in Phoenix. Well, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe area. And it was a very nice little hotel. I highly recommend it. And if you are doing the half marathon course, you are within like a mile of the start line if you stay there. And basically you just come out of the hotel and you go straight across, and there you are. I happened to walk out with a woman that was there with her family, and she was running the marathon course. And I think there's like a subway or something nearby that you can hop on and get to wherever the start line is for the full marathon. But it was a nice area. It was very hot, even in January. We ended up stopping at the Phoenix Zoo that Saturday. Then we had lunch at the zoo, and got to the convention center for the packet pickup, and walked around that a bit, and then the Hard Rock Cafe actually wasn't terribly far away from the convention center, so we walked over there. Because that's the thing with my family. Wherever we go, we try to eat at the Hard Rock Cafe of the area, if there is one. So, had a nice little lunch there, and went back to, or had a nice little dinner there. Went back to the hotel, and went to sleep. And it was, in a way, a good thing that we got there so late at night / early in the morning, because I almost immediately acclimated to the 3-hour time difference, because I went to bed at 2 in the morning and woke up at like 8 or 9 that first night, and then the next day it was easy to go to bed early and then wake up at the right time. So that is one benefit to traveling to different time zones, is if you go to bed at like 9 o'clock their time, it may be like midnight for you, as it was for me. So waking up at like 6 in the morning isn't that hard to do, to wake up to have time to get ready and get over to the start. So, like I said, I walked over, I was talking with a woman that was running the full marathon, and the full marathon started a lot earlier than the half did. And like I said, the start line was right in the ASU campus. So you get to a spot where they had the start line, and it's got the, I think it's like a pedestrian bridge over the road that goes through the middle of campus, and it has the ASU symbol there. And it was a very nice little start to the morning being there. It was very cool looking around there. Like, I can count the number of times I've been out west on one hand, because since I've been born, I've never really traveled. My family's never really traveled out that way very often. So I've never been to Arizona. This was my first time in Arizona, and it was a lot of fun. This race actually became one of my absolute favorites of all the ones that I've done, for a number of reasons, because, excuse me if you notice I'm swallowing or sneezing, because I can kind of feel a sneeze. My allergies are acting up these last few days, thanks to ragweed and goldenrod in the area. So, anyway. So, the Arizona race still is one of my favorite races that I've done. It's probably in my top 5, if not my top 10, just because of the scenery. Though that was a PR race for me at the time. I think the one previous was the Rock Hall half, where I'd gone from like an hour 49 to an hour 48 or something. And then I did this, and I did it in an hour and 46 minutes and some seconds. So I improved, I think, considerably from the previous race that I had done. So that was a big boom to me, especially with it being a new state, in an area that I was really enjoying. And yeah, not only like a new race state, but a new state I'd never been in before. So that was a lot of fun. The scenery was amazing. They call it the Arizona race, or the Rock and Roll Arizona weekend, because it goes through Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tempe. So they can't really call it the Phoenix race or Scottsdale race or Tempe race because you end up hitting all three. Especially if you do the full marathon, you hit all three areas. The half, I think you mainly are going through Tempe and Scottsdale, and then you kind of end in Phoenix because the finish line is kind of within the Phoenix limits. But seeing the Red Rock, the deserts out there, it was just a really nice scenery the whole way through. There was a slight delay to our start, which kind of bothered me, but also kind of didn't. Because I was all ready to go, and everyone was all ready to go, and then they said, "Oh, we gotta take a few minutes." Turned out, they were waiting on one of the, I want to call it a trolley, but it's like an above ground subway. They were waiting for one of those little trains to get through a certain area so that we weren't having to get to that spot and then stop and wait for the train to pass through. So I was kind of champing at the bit, and a lot of people around me were, and then as time went along, and then they told us, well, we've got another like 5-10 minutes. I'm like, well, I need to go to the bathroom again, so I ran to the porta-john, did that, and then got back in my spot quick. But you start out from the ASU campus. You go through a lot of the area of Tempe. You go through by the Tempe marketplace, which I actually we went back to later in the day to have lunch, and then I had gotten a massage appointment at a Massage Envy that was there, because we were going to fly back home later that night, so I knew being up in the plane, I wouldn't be able to stretch or do much, and I thought I need to get that kind of worked on before I get on a plane for how many hours. So, so you go by there, and you end up going by like where the Phoenix Zoo is and where the Phoenix Botanical Gardens are, and up in that area. And I was flying. For the first like 3 miles, I think I want to say, I looked down at my Fitbit, and it was saying that I was doing like sub 7-minute miles for the first 3 or 4 miles, which was an incredible thing for me. Of course, by the end I was kind of petering out, and it didn't help that one of my favorite parts was we were going up a hill, and all of a sudden I heard this dun, 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 dun. I'm like, that sounds like some Japanese drums. I like this. Where's this coming from? And then I looked and I saw a group of people with the taiko Japanese drums playing, and I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. Those of you that have seen my Princess Half Marathon video will recall before, where was it? No, it was coming into the Magic Kingdom transport area. Off to this side were like 30 or 40 people playing those taiko drums. This wasn't as many, but it was still enough, and I've always enjoyed Japanese culture a lot, and I've kind of fallen in love with the traditional Japanese music, the taiko and all that. So hearing that got me pumped. So I was going uphill at the time, and Phoenix, Arizona is a higher altitude than I am back here at home. So as I'm going up the hill, I'm not thinking, I'm just like, oh, that's so cool, the Japanese drums running up the hill. Then you get to a spot and then you turn around and come back. That time, of course, you're going back downhill, except for the first little whoop to get up. So I ran past them twice, so I had a lot of energy. By the time I hit the bottom of the hill and turned right to continue on, I was like, that probably wasn't the best idea in the world to run that hard up a hill at a higher altitude than I'm used to, because I started feeling very tired after that. But I think for the most part, I was either flat or going downhill after that. I remember hitting a couple spots within the last couple miles where I was walking a bit, and because I was so worn out. And I knew I was coming up toward the end, but I was like, I just need to slow down for just like 10 seconds. Kind of like with my Princess, the Run Disney Princess half marathon that you guys didn't see that little thing happen. That I had to describe, where I was like, I'm only like a quarter of a mile from the finish line, and I had to slow down to walk because I just couldn't do it anymore. But again, I had one or two runners come up behind me and, come on, you can do it, you're almost there. So I kind of waved at them, thanked them, and then kind of got my wind back and went zooming past them. And then it was downhill and a curve, and then I could see the finish line, and I had just passed I was coming up to the 13-mile marker. So I started booking it because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm getting a PR at this now. So I booked it, and when I looked down at my Fitbit, the little ways before the finish line, it read 4.5 minutes. Now, when I say that, I mean if I were to do a mile at the speed that I was going, I would have done it in 4.5 minutes. I can't normally keep up that pace for very long, but I found that an incredible feeling to be going that fast as I'm crossing the finish line and still feel really good after I crossed it, because there are times where I push myself to get through the finish line and then I don't feel so great. I'm either very tired or incredibly sore or a bit nauseated or something. So that was an incredible feeling to know that I was going that fast, finish so strong. I walked back to the hotel, got showered and changed. Like I said, we went to Tempe Marketplace, had lunch there. There's a lot of nice little restaurants there, and again, it's not terribly far from the Graduate Hotel. So went there for lunch. Then I had my massage appointment, and then we went from there to the Botanical Gardens, and we didn't get to see everything there because it was starting to close. Like, it was only open for another, like, 2 hours or so when we got there. So we left, of course, just before it closed. So we didn't see quite everything, but there was a lot there. It was really cool to see. So if you get a chance to go out there, do that. If you're okay with doing zoos, do the zoo. It's like a lot of the zoos that we have around here, very enclosed and stuff, but that was very open for a lot of the animals. There weren't like cages or anything really. They were in very large acreage areas, a lot of them. So then we went back to the hotel and had dinner, if you stay at the Graduate Hotel has a restaurant attached to it. I can't remember the name of it now, but they make some really good breakfast, lunch, dinner items. So I highly recommend staying at the Graduate and going there for lunch and dinner, or, for your meals. So, because we had some very nice breakfasts there. Well, I had a nice breakfast the one day, and then we had a nice dinner the last day. And then, like I said, we flew back home that night, and that was the interesting end to the weekend because we landed in New York City after the storm, and it was like negative 20 degrees outside, and waiting to get on the plane, and then finally getting on the plane, and then having all kinds of mechanical problems because of the cold, and other stuff going on because the government was shut down. So it was a long haul before we were finally home. And yeah. But again, if you can, even if it's not the rock and roll marathon race, because I know there have been some issues with the Arizona race. I remember reading reviews before I ran it that people were complaining that there wasn't much to it and this and that, which I didn't have any issues with it. For me personally, it's one of my favorite races that I've run. I know this past year, January 2020, there was an issue, I believe, with the half where it was not quite long enough. It was, the original course was not, or maybe not the original course, but there were some mistakes made along the course that, like, the first 10 people or so actually only got like 12 miles or something, which to a lot of people wouldn't be like, I don't really want to say like laymen or anything, but like people who aren't competitive with the races, like they just do it to do it. I don't think they'd really care that much. Like, I did the race, I got my medal, I'm good. But if you're trying to qualify for Olympics, or not necessarily Olympics, but like really serious competitions, they're not gonna take that result. Like, yeah, I know the race director messed up, but you didn't do 13.1 miles, so we're not gonna count that. You need to do another half marathon. Or like in my instance with running, doing the 50 States Half Marathon Club, if there's a discrepancy in the distance where it's too short or too long, but it's like advertised as a half marathon, and then it's like, well, actually it was 3.3 or 13.3 miles, or well, actually it was 12.8. They're not going to count that because there was a problem with the distance. It's supposed to be the 13.1 measured by the USATF and certified by the USATF. So, granted, they fixed the course during the race, so that's why only like 10 people accidentally were cut short on distance. But nevertheless, that's not the best press you want for your race. And like I said, there were some negative reviews that I'd seen before on the internet. I say do it if you can. I know rock and roll's having some issues with races in some areas, which is, like I've said in my past videos, I'm going to kind of give my take on the whole thing once I'm done discussing the remaining 3 races. Yeah. Once I'm done discussing the remaining 3 races of theirs that I've done, I'll get into that. But yeah. If you are in Arizona or out west, or even if you're not, and you want to do a race in Arizona for whatever reason, I do recommend this race. Just do some research on it, make sure everything's up to snuff. So, with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, remember, we're in it for the long run. Peace and love.